My name is David Dominique, and I'm a resident of Churchill in Richmond who is not used to talking into a camera in this manner and recording it. I wanted to say a few words about the past couple months, the summer of 2020, and what it's meant to me and the ways in which I've been inspired and what I hope to see moving forward. This summer, as we all know, this country is facing a moral reckoning over race and over specifically justice for Black lives at a scope and a depth and a level of complexity that we haven't seen in decades and perhaps ever. And I believe that Gen Z and millennials are the most equipped of any generations that we've seen in this country to lead us toward higher moral ground. And myself marching behind and sometimes covering journalistically these brilliant, passionate young adults in this city, I've been more inspired and more hopeful about the future of this country than I have ever been, and hopeful about the potential for structural change in this country. To be specific, I've been inspired to see the messaging discipline of our activists in demanding a very particular set of injustices to be addressed and justices to be instantiated. And in Richmond, I'd just like to run down a list of some of what those demands are from protesters, because we have seen cynical and skeptical politicians question why protesters are still out in the street if George Floyd, for example, if everyone agrees that what happened is wrong, if the case is being actively investigated and the police officers have been charged. Because as every protester in this city knows, people are not still out in the streets solely because of George Floyd. That's a small part of a much larger situation that people are out in the streets to address. And so here are some of the things that people in Richmond are demanding of the system, of politicians, and also of the police force and the justice system. One of the first ones is the reopening of the case of Marcus David Peters. Another is the thoughtful instantiation of a civilian review board with subpoena power. Another is the development of a Marcus alert, which would be a system for alerting mental health professionals to lead an emergency team to respond to a person in crisis, rather than that team being led by armed law enforcement who are not trained to deal with mental illness. The dropping of charges against protesters relating to events of this summer, protests this summer. An independent investigation of the Richmond Police Department's uses of force and declarations of unlawful assembly, and the release of the names of officers who are under investigation for uses of force. The banning of chemical weapons and rubber bullets and flashbangs, chemical weapons which have already been banned for international war by the Geneva Protocol, which are used in our streets to attack citizens who are paying for those weapons. The Richmond Police Department out of schools, the removal of the Robert E. Lee statue from Marcus David Peters Circle, and the removal of all remaining Confederate memorabilia in the city of Richmond. And lastly, I want to encourage you, Richmond, to register to vote and make sure that you are in fact registered to vote and that you're actively registered to vote right now. So if you're watching this video and you're not sure, just close this video, Google register to vote Virginia, and just go through that process and register. It'll take you only a couple minutes online. It's more important than watching me talk. But more important than voting and registering to vote, or potentially more importantly or equally importantly, I would encourage you to figure out what district you're in Richmond. There are 9 districts. Many people don't know which district they're in. And then figure out who is running for city council and who's running for school board in your district. And try to ascertain, maybe you have to put a little bit of work in, but try to figure out which of those candidates for city council and for school board most align with your own values. And when you identify that person, and especially if that person is not an incumbent, is trying to run to unseat an incumbent or replace an incumbent who's not running again, we have at least 2 of those, you need to reach out to that campaign, and you need to either donate to that person or volunteer for that campaign. All of these campaigns are accepting people to volunteer and help them canvass, whether by phone or in person. They have many ways that you can help out with their campaigns safely. And many people don't realize how powerful city council is in this city. and how much they can do to effect the kinds of changes that might help this city align better with your values. We often focus on the higher levels of elected office, but city council has an enormous amount of power in this city to affect your life positively. So, with all of that, I just want to encourage you to stay strong, Richmond. I want to encourage you to keep the energy up and keep this fight going. I'm going to keep my energy up. I'm going to be with you in this fight, and it's going to be long, and it's not going to be easy, and there are going to be more challenges, and we've had disappointments already, and we'll have more disappointments, but we also foresee having more victories, and I want you to be part of those victories, and I know that you want to be part of those victories. So get in it, stay in it, and Godspeed. Thanks for watching.